business tips to successfully start and run your business so your business doesn't run you. And more importantly, we provide personal development tools to create a better version of yourself to provide the solid foundation for your life and business to stand upon. This is the Biz Reveal, and I'm your host, Craig Sawyer. This week's episode is sponsored by Sawyer Health Solutions. Protecting what's important to you is what's important to us. Get your free health insurance quote at SawyerHealthSolutions.com. Bringing the latest online, social, and mobile solutions to businesses of every size, Laura Cole focuses on a company's marketing strategy, branding, public relations, and digital and social marketing strategies. Laura brings her deep understanding of consumer behavior and marketing solutions to show businesses how to reach and engage with their target audiences. After the show, learn more at www.vivial.net or contact Laura directly at lcole@vivial.net. This is the Biz Reveal podcast with this week's guest, Laura Cole.
Been in the digital marketing industry for 20 plus years and really work with all size of businesses on all of their digital marketing needs. So Vivial is a company. We work with tens of thousands of local businesses all across the United States and really help them with all things digital marketing.
Awesome. So when you say digital marketing, because I've done a few of these shows where we talk about digital marketing, and it is a wide range of stuff. So
yes.
Do you have, like, yourself personally, not the company that you work with or work for, but do you have like a niche that you fit in that you like prefer to work with?
That's a great question. You know, it's interesting because you're right. Digital marketing is a big term and it's kind of all encompassing. I typically break it down into like 3 categories, which would be like all thing online, social, as well as mobile marketing. For me, like where I tend to get probably the most excited is the elements around mobile marketing, because the reality is that the majority of searches online are actually happening on that mobile device.
Right.
And so, we're just seeing exponential growth continue there. So I think as a business owner, if you aren't thinking about how a consumer can interact with your business on a mobile device, you're missing, right? So that could be anything. That could be a mobile website. That could be, your Facebook page viewed on a mobile device. It could even be things like text message marketing. So I get really excited to talk to businesses about, how they're ensuring that their customers can find them from the mobile phone.
Okay. So, and actually I had 2 questions just from that last sentence or 2 there. One, how is mobile marketing different from online? Because it technically is online. So what is the difference there? Let's just start with that one.
Yeah. So I think, you're right. It's not really different per se, because if you think about, you can really do anything on a mobile device that you can do on a desktop. Right. You can do a Google search, you can get on the Facebook app, you can get on Twitter and Instagram and all of those things. But how it's viewed, right? Like on my desktop, I'm sitting here in front of a 40-inch screen, right? So, it doesn't take much to optimize for a 40-inch screen versus to optimize for, a 6-inch device.
Okay.
And so you really want to make sure that your photos are appearing accurately. The content of all of your information is really easy to read. It really is experiencing on the mobile device. And we've all had that experience, right? Like where you go to interact with a mobile website maybe, and you're pinching and you're zooming and you're trying to read the information. And I don't know about you, but I leave. I'm like, I don't have time to look at all of this. So I end up leaving. So it really is just making sure that what's happening, how your business appears
So
online.
Let me ask you a little bit about that, because I have created a couple of my own websites, which if I look back,
do you want me to check those out?
Man, we might have to have a discussion after the show.
Okay.
But, I've gotten better, but there is the desktop version and there's the mobile version. Now, depending on what program I guess you're using to build your website, whether it be Wix or, Squarespace or
yes,
all those other ones that are out there, some of them don't really allow you to make a mobile one. Like they say you do, but basically you just click on it and it just takes what you did for the desktop version and just converts it over to mobile, which doesn't necessarily make it mobile friendly. It just kind of stretches things out and you can't move things around to make it look good. So is that just finding the right company to go with as far as like web building?
Definitely. I mean, so I think that the company that you're choosing is a big part of it. Most companies these days have what we refer to as responsive design. So responsive design is what that means is whatever device you're on, it kind of auto magically, as I like to say, configures your site for the device that you're on. So whether you're on a tablet, whether you're on a mobile device or a desktop, it automatically kind of converts it into the right size.
Okay. So what are the most important things when converting to mobile to make it user-friendly?
Yes. Image sizes are a huge thing. Invariably, when we start working with a client, we find out that they're using way too big of imagery, which can impact page load time. So also, you've had the experience where you're on a mobile device and it's taking forever and clocking, and you're like, I don't have time to sit here and wait for, the right information to come up. So, size of imagery, size of content, amount of content that you have on the site are all really important things to think through.
Is there something that's more important than another as far as like visual as opposed to text? Are there any differences from a desktop version to a mobile version on which one you should really focus on for a mobile version?
Yes, I think that the answer is that it kind of always depends, right? So it depends on the content that you have on your site, but things like large videos sometimes don't always, transfer the best on a mobile device. Those tend to perform better like on a desktop version. But we always recommend like try it and see, right? So we're big fans of testing. So testing and really the great thing about all things digital marketing is the visibility of the data. So the great thing is that you can try something out on your site. We always say, don't ever set it and forget it. There is nothing in the digital world that is like, okay, my site's built, now I'm done with it, right? It really is all about optimizing it ongoing, looking at the data, understanding where people are staying on your website, where they're maybe bouncing off. We hear this thing related to bounce rate on websites. So it's really important as a business owner, you're investing in all things marketing, pay attention to the data, pay attention to what it's telling you, or work with a provider who gives you reporting, gives you insights, real-time dashboards, things of that nature. There's a lot of data. It can get really overwhelming, but you are missing out if you're not paying attention to those really valuable metrics.
And I know that there is, like you said, overwhelming amounts of data, which is great. I'd rather have too many ways to evaluate my website than not enough ways, right? So if you can narrow it down to the top 3 or top 5 things that maybe somebody should focus on first. If you're not a terribly analytical person and you don't have a lot of computer knowledge, what are some of the areas that you should probably focus on first, or maybe focus on the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really hard for me to narrow down to 3 to 5, but I'm going to stick with just like really basic high level metrics.
Okay.
You should be paying attention to the traffic to your website. And of that traffic, where is the traffic coming from? Is it coming from people that are finding you organically, maybe by searching your name or searching for a type of service and your, website shows up? Is it coming from social media? Are you doing paid ads, right? So you really should have a basic understanding of how people are accessing your sites. And that way you can start to build a plan about how to grow this respective areas. We work with a ton of people, and a good example is you may look at your traffic and understand that nearly 100% of it is direct, which means people are just typing in your website directly. They're getting to your website. Well, you're missing an opportunity of all of these people who maybe aren't aware of your business. So maybe coming to you through organic, through paid means, through social. So that allows us to really work with a business and understand where they can capitalize other areas to improve quality traffic. I think that I always urge people, quality is a word I use a lot of times because automatically people can sometimes think more traffic or more, the higher the number, the better, right? Just like max those numbers out. And if it isn't relevant traffic, that's probably not the best thing for your business. So it's really important, I think, to think about like quality and the type of people that you want to come to your site and how you ultimately then will convert them into becoming a paying customer.
Yeah, because you can have 1 million people going to your site, but
Exactly.
if they're not your ideal demographic, what difference does it make? Because they're not really converting anything, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
When creating a marketing strategy, as a small business owner, whether you're a solopreneur or maybe you have a small business, 5 employees, 10 employees, 20 employees, whatever the case is, and you're really starting to put your focus on your marketing strategy to how you're going to put yourself out there, your image out there. What are the first steps that somebody who's not done it before, has some knowledge, to be able to do it. Let's say they're doing it themselves, not hiring an agency like yours. If they want to start doing it themselves, what are the first steps they should take to do that?
Absolutely. So I would, I'd say, first of all, and it might be a bit of a plug, but if you really don't know much about marketing, whether it's my company or another, it is a good idea to partner with somebody who is an expert. We talked a lot about, the changes in the industry and the dynamics of it. And as a business owner, that can be really hard to keep up with, right? Yeah. Like you're a plumber, you know how to do plumbing, or you're an insurance agent, you know everything about the inside and outs of insurance. You probably don't know a lot about digital marketing. So one, I would highly recommend that. But in terms of whether you work with an agency or whether you're going at it yourself, the two things that I would highly recommend: one, ensure consistent and accurate information for your business across all of online. So there are some really simple ways that you can do this. Your Google My Business or your GMB profile is a very good place to start, right? If somebody's doing a map search, again, from a mobile device, that's how they're going to find you. So you really want to ensure that your name, your address, phone number, hours of operation, all of that is consistent across the web, social profiles, things like that. Really ensure that if people are trying to find you, you've got the most accurate information. The other thing that I think is just a really foundational element for a business is your brand voice. And that can sound like a really big idea, but you don't want to be kind of Jekyll and Hyde when you're talking about your business, right? People should look at the name of your business, the logo of your business, and really get a sense of who you are and the way that you talk on your website, on your social profiles. It shouldn't be as though 5 different people are managing the profile, right? It should be very consistent. They should know very clearly, like, what are your tenets of operation? What are your kind of, your motto or your theme? Just being really clear about who you are as a business. I always say, represent your business online as if they were to come see you in person. Right? So how you would treat them in person, or how you would treat them if you were on the job, landscaping or whatever, that's what they should see about you online. So consistency is key, and ensuring that, consistent information is available across the board.
Let's go back to the branding thing, because I hear that a lot, and I personally know what it is. But can you explain a little bit more in depth, like what branding actually is and how it's not necessarily marketing itself, it's a type of marketing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about branding. What is it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you're right. I think that branding above all of them feels really complex about, what it is, but it really is all things. And saying something like brand voice probably feels, very marketing lingo like, and it kind of is, I suppose, but it's ensuring, name, logos, colors, even like fonts that you use for your business. Like a lot of times, like I'll use a social profile as an example. Let's think about visually, if you're looking at like Instagram, that's an easy one to think about, because if you pull up a business profile, you've got all the photos just in a line. And again, a lot of times we run into businesses that if you look at, a section of 20 photos, it's really hard to tell who they are. There's all sorts of different stock photography, and there's purple over here and blue over here and yellow over here and green, and not good usage of the logo throughout to kind of pull everything together. So you really want a cohesive, visual representation. So I would say it's one element of it is the visual representation of your brand, whether that be logos, colors, photographs, videos, and how visually your brand looks. And it could be also, written forms of communication, the type of words that you talk about, how you show your expertise. And then, of course, even something, as I mentioned, as simple as font, kind of pick the font that you think best represents, whether it be Times New Roman, Arial, just be consistent. So I think, probably the word that I'll overuse consistently is consistent, right? Because you just really want, when somebody lands on whether it's your website, your social profile, or they're walking in the doors of your business, it's very apparent to them exactly who you are.
They should know without even seeing your company name. They should kind of already know who's putting that ad out there.
Exactly. I've seen these guys before. They're the ones that always have, this mascot on the side of the truck, or they're the ones that every time I see that call to action in blue, I know it's them. So think about those things that really kind of set your business apart.
In doing that, and this is going to be a loaded question, I already know it. But when you're doing that, what are some good ways to think about what you want the image to be for your company. I know it's going to vary from company to company, industry to industry, but how does somebody sit down and say, okay, here's what I want to say. Here's what makes us different. And here's the image I want to put forth. Because you have to have that before you can have your consistency, right? You can't be consistent with something until you know what the something is. So how does somebody, are there questions that you can ask yourself or, to be able to find out who you are, what your identity is as a company or as a service?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this is where I'm going to plug to find somebody who's experts at doing this. So when we start working with a local business or any size business for that matter, you're exactly right. We do go through kind of a series of questions. And I always find it really interesting as well, because I think many times if we were to say to the business owner, right, what is your brand voice? What is your style? If we were to ask very prescriptive questions like that, we would get blank stares probably and a lot of, well, I don't know. I've never thought about that. Right. Versus if you just start asking the business owner to explain what they do, what sets you apart? Why do you think your current customers would refer you to you over, maybe some of your competitors? All of that information invariably starts coming through to the surface, right? And we're able to pull out that story. And many times what that sounds like is then we're able to repeat back to them, okay, this is what I would say your top differentiator is. Would you agree? This is what I believe the 3 things that set you apart from your competitors. Would you agree? We've taken a look at your materials and we see that you use this blue color everywhere. Would you say, right? So I think sometimes if it's easier if you kind of have that third party voice who kind of almost parrots it back to you to say would you say this? And it's awesome when we work with a business owner because, 9 times out of 10, we just get a lot of nodding heads yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly who we are.
And sometimes we just don't realize that because sometimes it is easier to notice from the outside in because from the inside, you might be thinking about numbers and how you're going to get to here, get to that. But from somebody viewing it from the outside, you maybe can sense the personality of the business, which I think is, at least to me, I think that's what we're looking for, right? You're looking for the personality of the business itself, not what they have to offer. It's what sets them apart from their competitors.
What sets them apart.
Yeah. Why are they going to come to me?
So I toss out one other way, which is a fabulous way to really get insight about the thoughts on your business. And that is check out your reviews online, right? So there are a number of platforms that are out there. So, your customers can write a review about your business on Google, Facebook, Yelp, Foursquare. I mean, they can write a Better Business Bureau, you name it, right? People today have a lot of opportunity to give feedback somewhat kind of anonymously, which is, I have probably a whole series of thoughts on that as well. But, they read the reviews and hear what people are saying about, from a positive perspective, what things you really should enhance and do more of. Even from a negative perspective, I always tell business owners not to necessarily shy away from negative reviews because it is an opportunity to learn. And it's an opportunity exactly to understand wow, I need to coach this technician because they didn't handle this situation well, or my front desk person messed up here and I'm going to talk to them about it. Right. So it is an opportunity to learn. And I think even negative reviews aren't even necessarily, they're not always all bad because I know from myself as a consumer, I look at reviews all the time. And if I see a couple negative reviews, but I see that the business owner, answered and said, hey, I've left you a message offline. Let's talk through this. I'd really like to make this right. That's a good thing to see because I'm okay, well, mistakes happen. And at least I know that if a mistake happens, they're willing to own up for it. So long-winded way of saying, if you're not paying attention to reviews, that's a great place to start to see what your customers are ultimately saying.
Because that's coming straight from them about what makes you different than everybody else. That's a great idea. I hadn't even thought about that aspect, but that's probably the best way. I like that.
Yeah.
So taking that in consideration, now you know what sets you apart, right? Now you know the identity of your business and what you can do for people and what sets you apart. How do you start building that strategy?
Yeah. Here's the thing. And I think that it is only going to get harder for businesses. And I hate to say that because, the path to purchase is not this linear path. It's not okay, I know that my customer is going to do 5 things before they decide to make a purchase with me. They're going to, do these 5 things. every customer takes a different path to purchase. And if you envision, I know this is a podcast, so, it's so hard to see, but like if it's not a straight line, it's like zigzagged all over the place. So think about, the purchase that you've made, whether it be a somewhat, buying a pizza on a Friday night, maybe that one's a little bit more linear path to purchase, but certainly larger purchases, a landscaping project, maybe you're getting several quotes, right? So if you think about it, you're like, if I put my shoes as a business owner, well, what do I do? Do I focus on my website? Do I focus how I rank organically? Should I start doing paid ads? Do I do those paid ads on Google, or do I do them on Facebook and Instagram and the other social opportunities? If I'm B2B or, business to business, do I focus more on LinkedIn? Do I focus on mobile messaging? Do I buy newspaper ads, radio ads, any of these sort of things? So you're right. Like it isn't just, I wish it could be kind of this like templated approach, like, okay, business, here is the 5 things you should do. It's not. And also I'll tie back to my first quote, which was like, none of it, set it and forget it. So I think the first thing that we typically do when we work with a business is got to understand your goals, right? Are you looking for repeat customers? Are you looking for new customer acquisition? What types of clients are more valuable to you? Using the landscaper again as the example, are you looking to fill your schedule with a lot of like weekly maintenance and that's what you want? Or are you looking for, $20,000 jobs, right? Because to market for those two things is very different, and it's definitely a different path to purchase. So we typically sit down with the business owners that we work with and go through a series of questions to really understand the goals and the time frame to achieve those goals, right? So, search engine optimization, which is ultimately how you rank organically on Google, that can sometimes be a longer term play. You're not going to be the number one on Google overnight. Like that's not typically going to happen from an SEO strategy. So that's typically a much like longer runway. Things like social advertising or Google advertising, which is essentially paid ads on these properties, that is a much quicker way to start getting leads through the door. So if you're kind of in the need where you need some business immediately, that's typically a much faster way. I always think though, even that's not overnight, right? Because still you think about further optimizations that need to happen. We always see, typically improved performance of our campaigns kind of in the long term. So I think it's really, sitting down, understanding your goals, understanding the type of business that you're looking for. And then hopefully either you have the digital knowledge or you're working with a partner who does, that can understand how to kind of slowly bring these things in. And listen, for some of the clients that we work with, they're blessed, they're doing quite well. And so they'll say, no, I want to do everything out of the gate. And I've got a $10,000 a month budget. And what would you say I should do with that? That's great. But not everybody has that. Some people come to us and say, I've got $500 a month. How can I make the best of that? So I think it's really figuring out how to marry the digital strategy with what your goals are and making sure that we find the answer in there.
Do you need to have organic leads before you start worrying about paid advertising?
That's a great question. I would say no, you don't have to have an organic presence. You need to have a good website, right? So you do need to be, another word that I would use, kind of going back to this branding messaging, is like authentic, right? Be your authentic self. So it is really hard, say, for example, to like blast paid ads, but your website's not great. Your GMB or Google My Business page isn't optimized. If somebody goes and checks out your reviews, they look really crappy because you have 3 reviews. Like that's not going to look good, right? Because even with paid ads, and you can think about your customer experience or the last purchase you made, many times a paid ad will catch our attention, but we still go check out the business reviews, go check out the website. So although you don't need to rank organically to do paid, I would highly recommend ensuring, it goes back to kind of one of those first steps, make sure that your foundation is in place so that when you run paid ads, they're finding good reviews, they like the way your website looks.
Make sure they're seeing what you want them to see.
Exactly.
Make the money worthwhile to spend. Okay.
Yeah.
When you're self-employed, whether as an independent contractor or a business owner, when it comes to health insurance, you're on your own. Health insurance for the self-employed individual is imperative. When you get sick or injured, you aren't working and you don't get sick days. You may end up facing staggering medical expenses and loss of income. Health risks and uncertainties are a part of life. You can't always plan when you get sick, but you can be prepared for the financial aspect. The best way to be prepared against uncertain health risks is with the right health insurance plan. Call Sawyer Health Solutions today for your free consultation and quote. Allow us to put a plan together that makes sense for your situation. Call 239 209-677-9877 or go to our website at SawyerHealthSolutions.com. Protecting what's important to you is what's important to us. Now, when you were talking about like paid ads, another thing came to my mind was boosts. And this has been a sore spot for me for the last few years. When you're on Facebook, Facebook has the Facebook paid ads that you can get in front of, specific demographics. You can choose a very narrow niche, which is awesome for your paid ads, but you can also do it for boosts. So what is the difference? Because I swear, I'm not sure if I've ever seen anything positive about doing a boost. And that's what I used to do. And you're paying for that as well. So it's almost like a paid ad, but it's different. So can you explain what the difference is between a boosted ad that you're paying for and a paid advertisement on Facebook?
Absolutely. So the way I would first describe it is to say a boosted ad is a type of paid advertising on Facebook. So Facebook has a multitude of paid varieties, paid ads. Boosted posts is one of those varieties. And I actually would disagree with that assessment. I think it actually is a very valuable tool. We actually do boosted posts for a lot of the clients that we work with. If the budget allows, we typically would recommend boosted posts being one element of your paid social strategy, along with others like video view ads, engagement ads. There's a whole host and type of page-like ads. There's a whole host of different types of ads that you can run. Essentially, what a boosted post allows you to do is to take an organic post that you as a business owner, promoted or posted, and it allows you to put some paid dollars behind it so that it can be seen. Here is why it is important. And it is just the name of the game, and we're all living in Facebook's world, so we got to be a part of it, right? The reality is that you think as a business owner, wow, I'm doing really awesome. I have 1,000 people that have liked my page and they're following, and all of those 1,000 people are seeing all this great content that I'm putting out there about, maybe an offer that you're doing or an event or a tip or a trick or an idea or a holiday promotion, whatever it might be that you're doing. On average, less than 10% of your followers actually see that organic content, which is really like kind of demoralizing, right? When you're like, wait a minute, they've liked my page and why aren't they seeing it? Well, they're not seeing it because there's so much content, right? You think about, again, your own personal use of Facebook and you're fed a lot of information.
Is it showing up on their feed at all?
No,
so it's not even going to their feed.
Less than 10% of the time. Less than 10% of the time, right? Okay. So that is the concept behind a boosted post, is allowing more people to see your content and a way for you to push your content out. I would actually tell you, we see incredible metrics on boosted posts in terms of engagement with the content. And by engagement, we mean somebody is commenting on it, they're liking, they're sharing. We can look at comparisons for clients that we work with and say like, the graph is always, engagement that happens organically is typically like single digit. Maybe you get like 1 or 2 likes on a post versus if you throw even just a little bit of money, $20, $30, $50, right, towards boosting a post, you can see very valuable metrics that shows that there's more people engaging with your brand and more people engaging with the content that you're putting out there.
But those will only be people that you are already connected to, right? Does it only go in?
No, it can actually be, that's the other great thing. It can actually be even further than that, further than the people. So it's really a great way to reach additional people. And the other thing that I kind of grasped on when you asked the question and you brought it up is the fabulous targeting capabilities that are available on Facebook. And, some of that's going through some change. It'll be interesting because there's been a lot in the news lately about privacy, understandably so, right? But, the latest iOS 14 update with Apple and really basically confirming for Apple or iPhone users that they have to kind of opt in to being, tracked, because some people, feel a little big brother about the whole, well, wait a minute, I'm getting targeted for this stuff I've never even heard of. I do argue the other point. Now I know I'm in the industry, but again, from the consumer perspective, I actually find relevant targeted ads to me as a consumer highly valuable, right? So I've had the experience many times where I get targeted for something random, like a landscaping project or a retail purchase or something like that. And it's actually incredibly relevant and valuable to me. And so I click on the business, I learn about it. It makes my path to purchase much quicker versus if I was getting targeted, I can't think of a good example, but like something for like menswear or something. I'm like, I don't really care about that. Like that's not, that's not something
at
I'm
least
concerned.
The ads that you are seeing actually are ads that you may be interested in, or at least more likely to be interested in, rather than just random ads that you have to scroll past that have nothing to do with you.
Exactly. I just think that, highly relevant is so important. And a great example that we talked about over the holidays, I work with a colleague and, she was, kind of it was around right prior to the holidays. And she was like, honey, put up the Christmas lights. Well, he's a small business owner and he's busy and didn't have time. And lo and behold, she got targeted with an ad for putting up Christmas lights, right? For somebody to put them up. She had it scheduled. She had it done. It was simple. She was like, I saved my husband time. And she's like, it put the biggest smile on my face. And she would have never heard of this company if she wouldn't have been targeted.
But and I don't want to go off on this tangent too much because this can get crazy.
Yes.
I know that the biggest joke is my wife and I do this all the time too. We're like, what the hell? Because we're talking about something and all of a sudden, like 10 minutes later, there's an ad on Facebook. It's not like we search Google, like, hey, we're looking to buy lumber from Lowe's or whatever the case is, right? And all of a sudden you see a lumber ad. I kind of get that because it's like your search history and things like that. But if you're just having a conversation, can you say with any certainty at all if audibly that can happen?
Yeah. So no, I can't. That is by far not my expertise.
Okay.
I certainly have experienced exactly what you were talking about.
That makes me feel a little uneasy when my phone's listening to me like that.
Yeah. And had that, like, how the heck did they know? Now, in this case, she had done a Google search. I do know that because I remember asking her that. So she actually had searched and was like, does anybody actually do this? And then, of course, started getting fed the content. But I have had the same experience that you had. And it isn't interesting. So I'm not technically able to answer that question, but I think we all feel it. Now, I will say I have, and I can't say the name of the device because she'll start talking to me, but I have those devices all through my home. And I think,
and they have to listen all the time because they're listening for their name. So
Right. Voice search is another really interesting topic, right? Whether or not it kind of creeps you out or not, the reality is there are millions of these devices, right, in people's homes right now. And they're doing, more and more things on these devices. I mean, I order my dog's dog food on these devices. I, repeatedly ask for weather, ask for directions, do these sort of things. And so again, as a business owner, so we kind of talked, we started at the beginning talking about mobile device. You should think about, like, for my type of business, are voice searches applicable? What sorts of questions would people be asking about my business? A lot of times, Q&A is a great way to think about how your business appears online, because even if it's not a voice search, more and more consumers are literally like typing into Google as though they're talking, right? So not just like, plumbing near me or plumbing, Baltimore, but literally like, what is the best way to fix a leaky faucet?
Exactly.
Like literally typing the question in, right? So you want to be thinking about the types of questions, like think about your business in terms of Q&A as you're thinking about content to develop, whether it be your website or whether it be maybe a blog that's on your site. Q&A is a great way to start thinking about your business if you're not already.
And that's important for SEO purposes as well.
Very.
And in fact, I just had a show this last week or 2 weeks ago where we had a discussion on just that topic on how you speak the question versus how you would type the question.
Yes.
And I honestly hadn't really ever thought about it, but we all do this, right? Like you just said, if you go to the Google line, or Bing or Yahoo, whatever you go to, but let's just use Google because it's the biggest one. You go to that search bar and you're very short, right? You're using those powerful words, like you said, plumber near me or plumber Chicago or something like that, or best plumber Chicago. We don't talk that way, right?
Yeah.
But if you're using those devices that listen to you in the house, we all know, right? You can't say the name because it'll go off right now. Bing. But if you are asking them, you're going to say, hey, name of device, give me the name and phone number of the best plumber that is near here or, whatever.
Yes.
So you're asking that question in a different way. So it has to be able to read that.
Yeah, there's that whole section of Google, and you can kind of go down a rat hole on it. It's referred to as the people also asked section. So this is when, again, you type into Google a search term or a question or whatever, and you get, if you can remember what it looks like, those 3 to 5, like, people also ask this, like, do you do your landscaping in the summer or the winter? What is the best time to plant? When's the best? And you can literally keep hitting like give me more questions. And you can kind of go down a rat hole with that information. So it is really, really important to think about definitely the questions that people will ask about your business.
So let's get a couple more specific questions here, because you had mentioned, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I use all of those. And let's talk about it in terms of lead gen. I'm in sales. I'm in health insurance sales. So lead generation is basically it's everything. That and referrals, right? For me to get new business. What are some ways that we can use those platforms? And I believe it's different for each one of those platforms. So let's stick with Facebook for the first one.
Okay.
What are some of the best ways to use Facebook for lead generation, not for product sales, but for generating leads for somebody I may want to speak with that's looking for services that I can provide for them?
Yeah, great question. So for Facebook, first of all, for lead gen, without question, you need to do paid ads. I mean, that is just, again, referring back to what I talked about for organic, who's following you, you just will not get the return nor the targeting that you need to do without some type of paid ads on Facebook. You can do, as I mentioned, and it can be a little overwhelming, even frankly, for me and somebody who's in the space, like to log into Facebook Business Manager, which is where you manage ad campaigns for your Facebook page. It can be really overwhelming because there's a multitude of ad types. So there's lead gen ads, there's video view ads, there's page like ads, there's boosted content posts, right? There's all sorts of things that you can do. Clearly by name, lead gen ads are really important to doing lead gen. However, if you just start there and you kind of just immediately try to generate leads without kind of like warming up the audience, so to speak, you're not going to get as higher conversion because, again, tying back to this kind of brand authenticity, if you just try to like cold sell, I mean, you're in sales, you know it. If you just try to like go straight to like sign right here on the dotted line, people are like, I don't even know you. This is weird.
So how do you warm them up? Is it just informational stuff that you're putting out there?
Exactly. So it could be an article that you're posting, a helpful tip and trick. You could run a promotion. You could review gen and getting additional reviews on your Facebook profile. So you really need to think about it holistically, but certainly paid campaign management to kind of take through. We talk about the funnel many times, right? Marketing funnel, high up in the funnel, they're not as nurtured. Obviously down in the funnel, they're closer to convert. You need to be thinking about all facets of the funnel and running ads to kind of leverage all facets of it so that regardless of where somebody is in their journey, they're there. You maybe have been working with a client, directly or a prospect, let's say, before you've converted them, and they know you really, really well. So potentially targeting them with a lead gen ad will be very valuable because they're like, yeah, I know him. I feel really confident. I've had multiple conversations with him. So it really is ensuring, that you're thinking about all stages of the funnel. And I think that part is consistent, whether you're talking about Facebook, whether you're talking about LinkedIn, whether you're talking, Twitter, Pinterest, depending on the type of business. So I think that is definitely what we would recommend for Facebook. LinkedIn, I'll touch on that a little bit because B2B is obviously a big aspect. LinkedIn is a very powerful way to get prospects and to lead gen. You do want to ensure, I think one of the things that's hard for a business owner to understand is on LinkedIn, you may have your personal LinkedIn profile, but then you should also have a business LinkedIn profile that you really can manage all aspects of the business and actually advertise or lead gen from that business page. So that is, I think, one unique thing on LinkedIn is ensuring that you're kind of managing your personal brand if you're the owner operator of a business and all of that, but also you should have an overarching, holistic LinkedIn business page.
Now, does that cause any conflicts with LinkedIn? Because I've been on this for years and I am one of those salespeople who have kind of abused it. I've used it for so long and so effectively, but they've gotten smart to that over the years, right? They've done a much better job of making sure that people like myself or other sales folks don't abuse it. having two profiles sends them a red flag. Depending on how you set the profile up, of course, phone number can set it off or an email address can set it off. How do you make sure that you don't set off that red flag with LinkedIn of having duplicate profiles if you're using one for business, one for personal?
Really good question. Our experience has been, and there's probably exceptions, but it is all about that setup. So as long as you have one that's set up as your personal profile page as a person, and then the other is set up as a business, that is okay for owner operators.
Okay, so there's an actual setting in there when you set up your profile for business specific. That is correct. Okay, yes. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, and you need a business page in order to advertise. So in order to kind of put paid spend behind it, you need to be doing that on the business page. Because you're right, like LinkedIn is they have cracked down and I kind of appreciate them as somebody that's in the business world. Like I still get bombarded, but it definitely has gotten better. So yes, you definitely want to ensure that you have a business profile page set up for your company on LinkedIn.
Can you still, and I'm expecting the answer to be yes to this because you are setting it up on a completely separate type of profiles, business versus personal. But if you're using the same computer to comment or post on both of those, obviously it's going to have the same IP address.
Yeah.
Will that flag it, or is it okay because it is two separate type of profiles?
Just fine.
Okay.
Just fine.
All right, good. Because again, that's how I learned. Because I did have duplicate profiles, because sometimes, I'd have an issue with one and I didn't want it to disrupt my business, because honestly, the first couple of years of my career in health insurance, literally 100% of my leads came from LinkedIn. Literally 100% of my business was LinkedIn. So it is a phenomenal tool to use for lead gen. It's a really powerful tool. I didn't even know about the business page on how to set that up. Yes. I thought the business page was the regular page and you just put your business name on there.
No, definitely set up a business page.
Awesome. Instagram. We haven't talked too much about Instagram. A couple specific questions I want to ask on that, because and I know you had just mentioned a second ago that it's kind of across the board when you're doing certain things with Facebook and Instagram, as far as putting yourself out there. Is there a specific way you should market yourself on Facebook versus Instagram and LinkedIn? I know LinkedIn is more of a professional networking site. So obviously that's going to be a completely different type of segment there. But between Facebook and Instagram, is Instagram more visual than Facebook and Facebook is more textual? What's the comparison between the two? Even though you want to put the same message out there, are there different methods you should use to get that message out there between those two mediums?
Great question. Really great question. And I think that the answer is a little bit of both, right? And you're right. Definitely Instagram is known as a more visual, a visual place. The great thing, I think it's great, is that obviously Facebook and Instagram are integrated. They're owned obviously by the same entity. And so when you run ads, like using, again, like Facebook Business Manager is the example, you can actually optimize for both platforms kind of simultaneously, which I think, again, kind of lessens the load for the business owner to be able to do that. Also allows the business owner really great metrics and visibility to understand, are the dollars and the ads performing better on Instagram versus Facebook, all of that. So that's actually, I think, incredibly efficient for the business and a really great way to run campaigns. But yes, the unique thing about Instagram also is if you think about, the pictures, they're square photos, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not square on Facebook. So you do need to be aware of like cropping and things of that nature, all of which you can do within ad management, within the business manager in Facebook, or there's many platforms that, kind of integrate with it. But you are right. Instagram is definitely a more visual representation. So for companies like a photographer maybe, or a pizza place or a restaurant, or maybe a nightclub or a bar or someplace, that's really important that they see visually what they are, brought up landscape, or really any contractor that is showing off like a home or a recent remodel that they've done. Instagram is a great place to do that because it's very visual, very engaging, high user, and just, a great place to do it. Many of the ads that we run, though, we do kind of concurrently on Facebook and Instagram because they talk and work so well together. You really can optimize against both platforms, which again is just really efficient.
Which is where awesome. You're using the same ad and posting the exact same ad in both spots. Okay, and that's what I currently do, but I wanted to make sure that do pictures versus videos or videos versus pictures. Is there any one of those two things that work better than another? Do videos are moving things, and to me that attracts my attention a little bit more. But
yeah,
what's the metric say on videos versus pictures?
Video wins every single time, without question. Quite largely wins every time. I mean, video, exactly to the points that you brought up, incredibly engaging. You can use, various formats and lengths and things like that. Many business owners are kind of reluctant to get in the video game because they think, oh my God, I'm going to have to spend thousands of dollars to have videos created about my business. That's not how it has to be. I mean, if you have an iPhone or an Android device, you can take a video of your business actually quite professionally and very good. And it could be as simple as hopping on and doing, a quick live or something along those lines. It doesn't have to be, incredibly, planned and kind of, scripted and all of that. So I definitely recommend using a combination of both. I think really powerful imagery and photography is great too. Again, thinking about the example of like a general contractor, a picture of before and afters are really effective. Or, if you're, restaurants, great pictures of food and things like that really make you want to come in and, eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner at your restaurant. So definitely a variety. But without question, video performs when it comes to engagement, when it comes to conversion, when it comes to really any metric that you look at, video is going to win nearly every time.
I have one more question for you. And I was out of questions until you mentioned it.
Okay.
Lives, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. When you're doing the lives, what should you be doing and why should you be doing the lives?
Great question. Well, one, go in with purpose, right? So you're asking the right question. It's a really hard thing for me to answer without, kind of speaking to a specific business or a specific type of vertical, but you're asking the right question. I think the mistake that sometimes people make is they'll like, hi, I just hopped on, just wanted to say hi. That is not why you should do a live. That is not the reason. So go in, maybe it's a offer that you have. Maybe it's, okay, this Saturday, you're going to be running a promotion. You want to jump on and tell everybody the 3 things that they should be really psyched about this promotion, right? Go in with a purpose. I think keep it, relatively short. People don't have a ton of time, right? So if you can hop on for maybe 5 minutes, that's great. Think about whether or not you want to be just telling people something or if you want interaction, right? So I think, a great thing, I'll give one example. If you're going to get on at maybe 2:00 this afternoon to do a live, right? Maybe you post on your page and say, hey, everybody, I'm going to be jumping on at 2:00 to talk about this topic. Send me any questions that you have ahead of time and I'll try to, get to them while we're on.
That was my next question is, should they be scheduled or just randomly pop up on live?
Well, you can do it either way. And the great news is even the great thing about lives is even if they don't see the content live, they can still see it after the fact. So you kind of get that, evergreen usage out of it, which is great. So, I always think it's great to do that warn ahead of time because in case nobody's on, you at least can still feel hey, I got 3 questions from Joe and Mary and Steve. Joe, thanks for sending me the first question. It's this. So you're still able to kind of
interact without directly interacting them
engagement
at that time. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. And there was one other question I was going to ask you too. That was not live, but there was something else, and I don't remember what it was. It'll probably pop up when hopefully you're.
As soon as we're done.
As soon as we're done, I'm going to call her back. God damn, I need to ask her that. That's all the time we've got today, though. Laura, thank you so much. You're passionate about what you do. I can tell because when you're talking about it, you're smiling, you're talking faster. And I love speaking with people who are just tremendously passionate about what they do, that you really, really do know what you're talking about, first of all, which is most important. And I can tell that you really, really like helping people too. So if you wouldn't mind, take a minute or two here, tell everybody who's listening how they can reach out to you and hopefully even have you and your company help them grow their business as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. And you are right. I am very passionate about the topic. I get kind of giddy when I'm talking about it because this is kind of my baby and I've been doing it for a long time. And I would say everybody at Vivial, we really get a lot of just pride and joy and excitement by helping local businesses. It's a really exciting thing for us to do. So anybody listening can reach out to us on vivial.net and go to the contact us page, send us, a quick note and we'll call you back probably within minutes. We find ourselves extremely responsive and, we all of us, I think that you'll find are about as passionate as I am in this space. And we just really look forward to working with any of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and help everybody out. I know I got some useful information. Hopefully it helped a couple other people out there as well. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us this week. Go to our website at thebizreveal.com to catch all of our past episodes. We're available on all podcast apps, or you can watch any of our episodes on the Biz Reveal YouTube channel. I'm Craig Sawyer, and this is the Biz Reveal. Till next time.